and the audio is fantastic. Welcome back to my channel. This is the first video of a 3-part series on reading. So if you have a child that has a disability that prevents them from reading, whether it's the mechanics of how your brain processes it, if it's a physical disability, maybe your kid doesn't have a disability but is just a struggling reader, or maybe your kid is just not interested in reading, this is for you. So in this first video, we're going to talk about something called meta learning, one of my favorite subjects. Then in the second video, we're going to talk about a resource called Bookshare, and in the third video, we're going to talk about another resource that goes along with Bookshare. I love books. As you can see, that's just for my kids' school readers. I have a whole bookshelf over here, a ton digitally through Audible or through Amazon and the Kindle app or the Nook app. Like, I've got books in every little place I can store them. My husband's actually pretty tired of me buying books. I was not a super reader when I was a kid. I am now as an adult. And the thing is, it really has kind of changed my life. I'm not the only one who's going to say that. It didn't just change my life, it changed my family tree. Like, pick up a parenting book and learn a strategy that improves your relationship with your child. You've not only changed your child's future, you've changed your children's future and their children's future. Like, they're so powerful. When you looked at oppressed societies, like, what's one thing that's missing? There's a high level of individuals who can't read. Look at slavery. It was illegal to teach slaves how to read. That's because books carry so much power, and with that, freedom. So there's nothing that makes my heart ache more than kids, especially kids who just can't access reading. And again, whether your child has a disability or not, like, some people just struggle to read. And hopefully I can help unlock some of those mysteries of why for you in this video. So my experience in public school and the 2 districts I worked in, I have sisters who work in a couple of different school districts, is that if you are a struggling reader or have a disability, the way in which you access a book is through an adult. I have worked in a district where it was a one-on-one, so one student, and per student, they either had an iPad or a Chromebook. If your textbook came on there and had like a text-to-speech function, you could use that. But if you wanted to just go pick up like Captain Underpants and read it, like, there was no digital way to do that or have it read to you. My learning coach Jim Quick has a statement that he makes that I completely agree with from my experience. School teaches you what to learn, but not how to learn. So when it comes to reading in 2020, there are so many tools that have actually been available for quite some time that can be used to support readers. We look at traditional reading as picking up a book and reading it. But there are other forms of reading, one being audio and one still picking up a book and reading it, but the book on an electronic device. Now, this is kind of where I want to be clear. I don't think there's a one-size-fits-all. This is why we have to learn how to learn as individuals. I myself have certain things where I love a physical book, but I also have certain things where I'm an actual big fan of WhisperSync from Amazon, where you get the digital book and the audio book and do both at the same time. It's like one of my favorites. And I also love, like, sometimes I have the flexibility as a mom of 3, with one being a year old, to go only audio or only the book, or do both when I can. Like, I also want to kind of break down, there's reading because it's enrichment. This is just going to be part of my expectation for you as a child to read. But there's also fun reading. So when it's fun reading, totally go audio. If that's, like, do whatever is going to work. I just would suggest, if reading for school, to not do only just audio. Reason because it is easier to check out during audio. Just mentally, you get lost in what you're doing. The other reason is because there is anecdotal evidence that when a child who's struggling to read is reading on a screen and then is hearing it and seeing the word highlighted, it can actually help improve. You can definitely use something like I do with Amazon, where I have the text visually and I also have the audio. And that might be enough for your child. That does not highlight as it reads. if you click like in the Kindle app to read, it takes you away from the text. So they definitely have some work to do there. There are specific programs that have more meat to them as far as the options to help with reading. Our brain processes symbols like a stop sign 60,000 times faster than words. And eventually what happens as a reader, you get to a point where you're not decoding words anymore. They're kind of just like symbols. Have you ever seen those little things on Facebook where they take out all the vowels and put numbers? Like, you still register the word because your brain just kind of sees it as a whole word. So when I took a speed reading course, that was the first thing we learned, is that you can stop like trying to decode words. You can actually see groups of words almost as symbols to increase your reading speed. This is where I learned why reading was difficult for me as a child, was because it increased my speeding read doing that, which increased my focus and my brain work. I was reading too slow. I had no idea I was even doing that it was putting me to sleep, or I was more apt to check out. I'm gonna hop over to my computer screen in and out of this part to show you some of the tools that you can use. This is the part where I get so super excited. Because like for me, I needed to read faster. You can change that in some of these programs. I would just caution you, just because your child struggles reading does not mean they need it to be slower. That might have the opposite effect. They might totally check out. They might totally get bored. They may actually need it to be faster like I did, because it was just like too much like stale time. You're just gonna have to play around with to see where your child's range is. And again, this is where we talk about it's okay. If they fail, well, they're not gonna fail. They're learning to read. But if the settings you choose don't work out, fails, that's all right. Go back and tinker a little more. It's gonna be a process and it is okay. One of the other parts that I like is you can often change the size of the text to make it bigger. I love that a lot of these programs highlight the text as it goes through. This one was a big for me just in note taking. I don't know about you guys when you were in school, were you only allowed to write in there were 3 things I could write with: a pencil, blue or black ink. That was it. That is not how I learned. I figured that in college. I needed lots of colors and bright colors. And that way, instead of like my brain seeing the notes page as one big blob, like it saw each of the pieces of information as individual pieces of information. With electronic books that have a compatible program to read it, and there are specific programs for struggling readers, you can often change the coloring. You can change the coloring of the page. You can change the coloring of the text. There's one, which I will show you, that changes the text so it's like a blue, but it's like gradient and goes into a little bit different forms of blue and maybe even a couple other colors. My brain's like so interested in that, right? It's holding my attention that it makes all the difference in the world. You can also change the voice. This is the part where we have to take a moment to talk about pricing, because there are a lot of these types of programs for free, right? This isn't just, what I'm talking about isn't just like getting how I do a whisper sync, where I'm getting an Amazon book and then I'm getting the audio and I can control the speed of the audio with my Amazon book. These are specifically meant to help kids who struggle with reading. So they have some extra features to them. One being the voice. The thing is, when you buy or pay $0 for these programs, you often get a very highly digitized voice. And that might be off-putting for your child. Again, your child may be fine, but they can be very digitized and computerized. When you pay or pay a little more for some of these programs, those voices just get to be a better quality and your child may be more interested in that. Maybe the first e-reader you choose doesn't work. That's okay, because it might not just be the process itself. It might be the options on that specific reader. For the most part, I would say a lot of times it comes down to the voice. Some other features can also be like note taking. Some of them will allow you to highlight different parts and extrapolate that into notes. Some will, if you click on a word, will give you the definition. They have so many amazing parts to them that can help a child not only read, but then actually like comprehend the text Some may even help level text, bring it down to a little bit lower grade level. That's awesome, because then your child can still read a book that's on his or her intellectual level or interest level, but just be at a reading level they can read at. I always say, like, let them feel a little bit of success so they buy in, and then kind of slowly push the envelope a little bit, because again, you're going to have it being heard, they're going to be seeing it, it's going to be tracked on the screen with a little highlighter. It is such a cool tool. And again, use this for someone who's struggling to read. It may spark their interest, especially if you are able to get books that are just fun for them to pick up and read, and they know that it's not going to be this big stressful event. All right, that's it for today's video. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Next week, we're going to be talking about Bookshare. This is an amazing tool. It is a free resource for individuals who meet certain qualifications. I'm going to walk you through their site. They have tons of demos on it, but I wanted to just put it out there and show you in case you haven't seen it. And yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that this was able to help you. Let me know down below if you try or implement any of this, how it goes, because then that always helps me when it comes to the next person who needs help, that I have more feedback on things that work and don't work. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye.